We're going to cry Daf Mesechtes Kesuvos Daf Lama Gimel. We're in 14 lines down from the top of the Amud. We're in the middle of a conversation here. In this machlokes, how to resolve our Mishnah in Eilaniris in Mesechtes Kesuvos and the Mishnah in Mesechtes Makos. Like we said, one Mishnah, our Mishnah says, and they said the same case. If someone had Bia with his sister, that's a Naira. Question is, our Mishnah says you're going to pay. The Mishnah in Mesechtes Makos says he's going to give Malchus. How to resolve the contradiction? So we had Ula, who said, yes, when you have a choice of the two of them, you pay money and you don't get Malchus. So why did Mishnah over there say you get Malchus? It's talking about when there's no monetary payment. Right? It's a begettes, or it's talking about Yishayim Mafutta. There's not going to be any monetary payment. Rabbi Yochanan says the opposite. Says, no, you're right. When you have a choice of the both, you're going to get the lashes, not the money. So what's pshat? Now Mishnah says the money. It's about when there was no warning, no asra, so you're not going to get lashes. But when you have a choice of both, like the Mishnah said, you're going to get Malchus. Then our Gemara was saying, okay, but if you remember, Ula's source for the halacha of Mamayim Mishal Mekhalilaki was from Chayv L'Chaverai. You see the same thing about Edom Zaymin. You see over there, you have Malchus and you have money, and you pay the money, not the Malchus. What's Rabbi Yochanan going to do with that? So that's what our Gemara had explained, that, oh, that's different. That's because, like Rabbi Allah says, it's explicitly telling you by those two that you pay money and you don't get Malchus. But generally, you get Malchus, not pay money. That's why our Gemara is going to continue now with another source for how to resolve Rabbi Yochanan. Although he says that generally the Torah tells you Kedei Rasha says Arbam Yaken, you're going to get 39 lashes. You're going to get the lashes, not the monetary payment. That's why it's an exception to the rule by Chad B'Chaverai and that by Edom Zayman. Some of the things discussed in today's Daf are, like we said, all agree that Chayv B'Chaber Edom Zayman is Moin Mishal Mekhalilaki because Beferish Ribs Torah Chayv B'Chaber L'Tashlumin, and our Gemara is going to give another source of this halacha of why they're different, which Rabbi Lez is going to say Edom Zayman are la b'nei asra and they cannot be given asra, so therefore they're Mekhalilaki. Actually, Abai are going to say. This depends on how you interpret what Abai says. It actually says that they do not require hasra. So in contrast, Rabbi Elazar says they cannot be given hasra. Then we're going to have a third interpretation and resolution for the two Mishnayos. We had already Ula and Rabbi Yochanan that says you're only going to get one, not the other one. The question is which one is that one? Actually, Rish Lakish is going to say a third interpretation. Actually says that no, it's actually both. Because at the time of my Mishnah is Rameh who holds loiku mashal. You actually do pay and you actually do get lashes. Because Kim L'Rabban only applies to Chiv Mrs. Bezdin and does not apply to cases of lashes. Something that's discussed in today's hour. Kivin Shehigit Shuv in the Chazar Magid. Once you said your testimony, you can't go back and say it. But Teich K'nei Dibur, if it's within the amount of time to greet someone, then actually you could be Chazar Magid. You could still back out and change what you said. So Shlomo Bava Chamisha is the halacha when there's someone steals an ox or a sheep and he slaughters or he sells it, that he has to actually pay 4 or 5 times the amount, depending if it's a sheep or an ox, for what he stole. And Ein Shlichut V'Aver is the concept that you cannot have an agent for a sin, meaning generally there's a halach of agency that you could, the person could be like you. When it comes to Navera, he's not going to send an extension of you, he's going to have the liability himself. So we begin the current Daf Let me give him 14 lines down on top of the oven. Like we said in the previous Daf, we said Machlekes Ula and Rabbi Yochanan regarding when they committed transgression, which is liable for Malchus and Mammon. Ula says Moin Mishal Mekhalilaki, Rabbi Yochanan says Mekhalilaki Moin Mishal. So there's two instances that Rabbi Yochanan agrees Moin Mishal Mekhalilaki, you can pay money and not lashes. One we said is Chayv B'Chaverai, because the Torah is explicitly telling you, although you have Malchus of Lo Yosef, you have Mammon of Chayv B'Chaverai, Torah is telling you only Mechayiv Mammon because it says Kasher Asa Kenya Asa Loi, and it says Kenya Nasan Boy. What is that? That's Mammon. Another one we said is Edom Zayman. Torah is also, you have Malchus because of Lisana B'Rechet Shachar, you have Mammon because of Asisam Kasher Dam Las La'achon. Torah is explicitly telling you to be punished with Mammon because it says Asisam Loi Kasher Dam Las La'achon. It says V'Yisachas Einecha Yad B'Yad. What's Yad B'Yad? Davanit Miyad B'Yad. Someone that's given hand in hand. My knee. What is that? That's Mammon. That's our Gemara continues now. Rabbi Lezer says another reason why Edom Zayman are going to be Mammon Mashal Mekhalilaki, even though generally Rabbi Yochanan holds you get Malchus and not Mammon. Why over here are we going to say that you pay money and not get lashes? Says the Gemara. Rabbi Lezer Ayman. He says Edom Zayman are Mamayim Mishalim, those who said false testimony, and then we had other witnesses who said, how could you say you with us? They're going to pay the money for what they tried getting the defendant. Umukalaka, they're not going to get lashes. In other words, what Rabbi Lezer is trying to say is that you don't need a pasuk, like we said in the previous daf, to resolve Rabbi Yochanan, because he says it's actually logic, because it's not even possible to have lashes by the Edom Zayman. So yeah, in general, Rabbi Yochanan is correct that when there's lashes, you can get lashes, not get money. But by Idm Zayman, you can't get lashes for the Isser of Loisan Berecha Shaka. Why? So he says, Shem Delab B'nei Asraninu. Because that you can't warn the Idm Zayman before they testify, as Rav is going to explain. So therefore, if you're going to punish them, the only way you could punish them is with money. Because you cannot get a punishment to your body, which is Malchus, without being warned. Now, Rashi says, what's with Ben Gerush Ben Chalutza? When they say, hey, when they're Eidim Zayman on saying someone is the son of a Gerusha, we actually punish them with Malchus without a warning. I suppose you can't get an Einish in your body without a warning. That says Rashi's Exer Sakasa, because we find that the Pasuk explicitly says that it's going to be Malchus Eidim Zayman, where it says, B'hoyim Ben Akitzer Rasha, which the Gemara explains in Malchus in the beginning of Masechta, that does talk about by something that you cannot punish them with Kasher Zaman. So that will be a case that you'll be Chayiv Malchus Begufa. But where you could do Hazama, then it's not applicable to have Malchus. Why not? Because Amar Rabbi says Teda. You should know that it's not possible to warn the Eidim Zayman so that they're going to get Malchus for violating L'Saran Namarecha Eit Shaka. It says because Nisr Bahu, this is you want to warn the witnesses. Emas, when are you going to warn them? As follows. Nisr Bahu Meikara, if you warn them beforehand, let's say a day or an hour before they're going to say their testimony. You say, hey, just want you guys to know, L'Saran Namarecha Eit Shaka. Amri, they're going to say, Yishtalyan, oh, we forgot about the warning. Because it was already an hour ago. So therefore that nullifies the whole warning thing. It's got to be right before it's being done. And if you're going to say, okay, Nisu B'Rishas Ma'aser, warn them as they're getting up to testify, order in the court, and they go, by the way, L'San Melech Shaka, I'm perishable Masadi. They're going to desist and they're not going to testify, even if it's true. Because if we're suspecting your eyes, what do we need this problem for? I'm not going to testify. So it wouldn't be appropriate to warn them as it's happening. And if you're going to say Nisu B'Rishas, warn them at the end after they testified. What do you mean? Hava. What happened? Which is based on the halachic principle of Kibin Shehigit. Once he testified, say he can't go testify anymore, so he can't back out anyway. So what's the point of warning him right now? So therefore, says Rava that you can't. They're lav b'nei asranenu. So therefore, Rabbi Lazar says, oh, of course, Eidim Zayman are going to pay money, not get lashes. What do you mean? There's lashes, but you can't warn them anyway. It's not gemult. It's not possible, and therefore there's not going to be lashes. But Maskil Abai has a difficulty with this. He says, what do you mean? You could warn them within the amount of time of speaking, which means what's called the amount of time of greeting someone. It's called Kadei Shila Shalom. Shalom Alecha, Rabbi. The amount of time to greet someone after they testified, because what's called Teichei Dibur is Kedibidame. If it's the amount of time of greeting someone, that's like as if you were still in the middle of speaking, and you could still back out. So that would be a great time to warn them, because they already testified, and yet they can still back out. Or additionally, he says, what do you mean? Yes, warn them an hour or a day beforehand. But and then when they're about to testify, give them a little wink, or give them a little signal regarding, remember that warning that we had. That's going to remind them. Which, as Rashi explains, since it's being done in a soft, way, they're not going to be so particular. Say, oh, you're suspecting me, whatever. I'm not getting involved, whatever. This, that, Machmir the news, and then that's also a good option. So therefore, that's not really a good reason what Rabbi Lazar is saying to say that you can't do a warning, because you could do a warning. So then we're back to the question, really, based on what Rabbi Lazar is trying to say. Why don't you give Malchus to the Eidim Zayman, and instead you're doing monetary payment? So Hadam Abai, but then subsequently Abai said that actually, Lav Milsi Hidami. It's actually not true what I said, that the Eidim Zayman should really require Hasra. And therefore I said, but wait a second, Rabbi Lazar's pshat's not correct. I mean, they do require Hasra, and it's possible to give Hasra, and therefore you should get Malchus. This is not true. Why? If you would think to say, Eidim Zayman tzrichen Hasra, that the Eidim Zayman actually even need Hasra, so Kiloi Masrin Bahu, so when you don't, if you're saying he needs a warning, when you don't warn him, so like Katlin Lahu, you're not going to kill him, not going to execute him, the Eidim Zayman, even though they said that this guy should be Chayv Misa, you're not going to give him Misa because you didn't warn him. The problem is, Mika Midi, is there such a thing? The Inu Bayu Katal B'Loi Asra, they wanted to kill the defendant without having warned him, because the story never happened. So they were attempting to kill someone without warning. The Inu Bayu Asra, they need warning? How could you say that? But you need what the pasuk says about you have to do to him, to the witness, the false witness. But he attempted to do to his brother, and like, you don't have that because they were planning to kill someone with their testimony, which never happened, and that guy was never warned about what they're testifying. So therefore, that means to say they also have to be executed without being warned.
They testified that he was warned?
No, I mean could be, but Lamaisa at the end of the day, whatever they're trying to do to him was without a warning.
So then they wouldn't have killed him anyway.
What? No. Let's say they testified that there was a warning, but there was no be'etzim.
I understand that.
Trying to do something without a warning, how could he have that without a warning? So therefore, Abaye says it's not true. This whole thing that you need a warning, because you don't even need a warning. So this idea that I'm saying that, what do you mean? What Rabbi Loza is saying, that you're going to pay money and not get lashes because you can't have a warning. He says, no, you could have a warning, and you need to have a warning. But then Abai says, not true. I can't say that you need to have a warning, because then that would mean to say that he's not doing kashazam. No, you don't need a warning, and therefore what it sounds like he's saying is that obviously, like you actually could say like Rabbi Loza, that Eidim Zayman are not really applicable for Malkus, or you say that actually holds that therefore you do get Malkus. Either way, he's saying that what I said before is not true, because obviously you don't need Hasra, and therefore then you could get Malkus. But Maskabla of some Rebbe Yirmiyah, he asks Abaya, he says, wait a second. Now, if that's the case, that the reason why you're telling me he does not require Hasra, does not need a warning, is because of Kasha Zamam, because it has to be like what you tried to do. You tried to do something without a warning, you also have to get without a warning. Then what do you do with the Malkus of the Edis that are Zaymin of Ben Gerusha Ben Chalutz? Let's say they were saying that they're regarding this guy, he's like, Koyin, plus size, Zamam is giving a Grisha. He's a Chol. Where they get lashes for that, to let me Kasha Zamam come as Rabbi, that's not included from Kasha Zamam, their punishment, because they didn't plot to give him lashes, they plot to make him a Chol. So if that's the case, that Libai Hasra, they should require a warning. What are you saying? The Eidim Zayman don't require a warning, but that's only by Kasha Zamam. But when Ben Gurush Ben Chalutza, which is not learned out from Kasha Zamam, the Eidim Zayman should have to have a warning beforehand regarding their liability. And that says the Imam Khan, the Pasuk says Vayikra, no, Mishpat Echad Yilchem. In general, it says there should be one justice for you, which is Mishpat Echad Yilchem has to be a judgment that's equal for all of them. So since most Zayman are not B'nei Asra Ninu, because they can't be any better than the ones that what they try to do. So you're also, you're right, although technically really there should be Hasra over here for the Eidus of Ben Gerush and Mechalutza, but you're not going to differentiate. It has to be Mishpat Echad. They also are not going to require Hasra for their lashes that they're going to get for saying that he's a Ben Gerush and Mechalutza. Now, similarly, the same theme that Rabbi Loz was saying, that you don't need Rabbi Loi of saying Befedish Rib Setaira to explain for Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says when there's Malkus and there's Tashlumin, you get the Malkus, not Tashlumin. What do you do with Eidim Zayman? That's what we just said before. I mean, Eidim Zayman, of course we're going to say get Malkus, because you don't need Hasra, and therefore, why are we saying that you're going to get? Why are you going to get Tashlumin? So that's the Gemara attempted to say an answer because you can't have Hasra. And then we said, no, it's not true. But the same type of approach, the Gemara of Shishbri Davido Amma, he tries to say, Nami. Same type of, he also coming up with another source that you don't need from Rabbi Loi, from the previous Daf. He says, although Rabbi Yechanan generally says you get Malkus, not money, when a person injures his friend, they're also, lucky, you know that you pay money and not get lashes, even though generally you do get lashes. It says, when people are going to be fighting, and someone pushes a pregnant woman, and it causes her to miscarry. Now, Rabbi says, where this guy was fighting with his friend, a fight to the death. He was trying to kill his friend, or that other person. That's what that's what the Pasuk's talking about. How do we know that? Because the Pasuk says over there, there was going to be an unfortunate where the woman's going to die. Then you actually have to give a life for a life. So although he only intended to kill his friend, the Pasuk is telling us, but if you intended to kill one person and you ended up killing someone else, so you're going to be liable. So that's what his case is talking about, where he was trying to kill, and he ended up injuring the woman. So, what's the case talking about? Meaning, if they did not warn him that if you kill him, you're going to get executed, why would he get killed for killing the woman? Obviously, they warned him, don't kill your friend because you're going to be chayav misa. And therefore, if he kills the woman, he's liable for her death. Because even though he attempted to kill one person and he killed someone else, that's the same thing. Now, so we could assume, when someone is warned regarding something severe like death, he's going to be warned for something that's less than that, which if let's say he hits and he doesn't kill, then he'll get lashes for stam hitting, for lo yesef pen yesef. And even so, the Torah says, if there's no unfortunate, meaning if there's no liability of death because no one dies, what does the Torah tell you? Anish. He's going to be punished where he's going to have to pay the monetary value of the miscarriage. Even though there's a warning for Malchus, the guy didn't get a warning for Malchus, but he got warned for death. But included in that warning for death is a warning for lashes for sure. So obviously you see, Meshalem ain't like you have to pay and you don't get lashes. So that's a different source of Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg to explain this halacha of chilul b'chaverei. Why are you saying get monetary payment, not lashes? Is because the Torah is telling you that in also in Beferish Satira that you're going to get monetary payment, not lashes. But Master Rashi asks, where do you get this idea from? That you're proving your point. That if you're warned for something severe like the death penalty, because that's why it would be nefesh tachas nefesh if he ends up killing her. That means to say he was warned for something lesser, which includes malchus, and you see when there's no misa, you're not going to get the malchus, you get the mammon. It's not true. Maybe the premise is wrong. Maybe when you're warned for something more severe, it's only for the more severe, not for the lesser. And even if even if you're going to say that it is considered warned for a lesser thing if you're warned for more severe, who said the death penalty is more severe of a warning than lashes? As the Gemara continues on the base, maybe lashes is more severe. Lashes is more severe than death? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the Amar Rav says, if they would have hit Chanan Meshav Azariah, who they allowed themselves to be thrown into the fire, if they would have given them afflictions, they would have bowed down to the idol. So you see that Yisurin are worse than death. They're willing to die al Kiddush Hashem, but we see that they would not have been willing to go through the pain, which Tais discusses. It wasn't really about desire, therefore. But al Kapanim, you see that, could be Malchus is worse. So on that, I'm like, some say it was Rav Samri, the Rashi said Ravashi. No, come on. Don't you think there's a difference between a hitting that has an end, which is the Malchus that we give of 39, to a hitting that has no end? Meaning the afflictions of the government, like the Inquisition, the Yimach Shemams, all these different things, those are hittings that have no end. That's something that Chadam Meshav would not have held out, and they would not have, they would have submitted. But Malchus that has an end, which is only 39 lashes, of course, Misa is more Chamer. So if you're going to say that Misa is Chamer and Malchus is Kal, which is the case, that Malchus of 39, don't bring me right from Chadam Meshav Bazar, from that drasha, because that's talking about unlimited pain, that they would not have been able to survive, and therefore, then you say, again, we're assuming then the first kasha the Gemara has that, included Misa Chamer is the Misa Akal, is the Malchus Akal, and therefore we see Maman Mishal Mulkalilak. But again, the Gemara didn't answer that question. How do you know? Maybe, essentially the Gemara, it didn't answer the question of how do you know that something lesser is included in something more severe. It did answer the Imtim Tzalema. It answered the question that, and if you say that a lesser is included in the more severe, how do you know Misa is Mohammed, Malchus is Mohammed? No, Misa is Mohammed than Malchus. It's only Malchus that has no limit that could be more severe than Misa. Now, however, the Gemara continues to ask on this drasha. Maskalo Yaakov in Harpakot, he asked on Rav Shesha's drasha, on that you're learning from Nefesh Tachas Nefesh, you have this whole drasha showing me that you chayav Misa, but when there's no Misa, you're going to pay the money and not for the Malchus that's included in the Misa. But it's not true. Your drasha doesn't work according to everyone. And this makes sense according to Rabbanan, the Ami that they say in Sanhedrin, in Perek Elin Asaf and Ayin Testament Alf, that if you intended to kill one person, you killed someone else, that you can be liable. So that must mean that the way they learned this when the Sata Nefesh, Tachas Nefesh, it means Nefesh Mamash, it means literally a life. Meaning, it's a life for a life. When you kill the woman, since you intended to kill the man you were fighting with, you're liable for the death penalty. Oh, so then we could be Medayik, and we could explain the Pasuk, like we've said on Omen Aleph, there's talk about where he was warned. Obviously he was warned because then he wouldn't get executed for killing the woman. And then we could learn out that although obviously there was a warning, when there's no death, that he's going to be punished with the monies of the values of the miscarried fetuses and not get malchus. That makes sense, like we explained. But that's not how everyone learns the pasuk. El Rebbe that he says over there, that if you intended to kill one person, kill someone else, you actually do not get executed, you rather pay the monetary value. Because he says, Mamoin, when it says in the Torah, Nesata Nefesh Tachas Nefesh, it doesn't mean really a life for life. It means the value of the life. The value of the woman you have to pay to her inheritors. Oh, if that's the case, you can explain the pasuk to when he wasn't warned. Because you're still liable for monetary liability when you're not warned. And that's why when there's ki ein asin, when there's no death, you'll pay the demei vladois, and when there is death, you'll pay the demei of the isha. And that's what it means nefesh tachas nefesh. But if he was warned, maybe I would tell you that, yeah, if you're warned regarding death, then actually included in death is a warning for lashes, and you actually would get lashes and not pay. So Michael and according to Rebbe, from where do you get this idea from? That when you injure someone else, that there's a monetary payment, even when he's warned, and not malchus. So the Gemara says, you're right. That's not a good source. Ella rather, Amr of Yaakov and Arpakoid Mishmei Rabbi says Mahacha. The source is from a different pasuk, a pasuk in Shemais. Pasuk says, Im Yakum, if he gets up B'sach B'chos Al Mashanta and he goes outside. Al Mashanta, what does Al Mashanta mean? So Rashi says, like the Targum says, Al Burya, which means to say, he goes back to his own strength and to his original, Al Mashanta means with his own support. Okay, if he gets up and he's walking outside, but Nikamaka, so the one who hit him is now clean. Now, the question is, if you think to say, what's the pasuk saying? What, you would think he's walking the street, but then this guy's going to be executed for killing him, but the guys walking around the street. What do you have to say when Nikamaka? And the rather pasuk Malamed is coming to teach you because the pasuk is only coming to teach you that if someone hits someone, he doesn't die, but he falls, he's in a coma, he's in the hospital. So what you do is you take the guy who injured him and you lock him up in jail until you see, is this guy going to survive and walk outside? Then v'nikamaka. The inference is up until this point, he can't leave court, we lock him up because the guy might die and we got to execute him. So v'imes, if he dies, we would kill him. Now, since you're saying that you lock him up, obviously, if the victim dies, we execute this guy who hit him. Because if you're not killing him, so why are you locking him up in prison? So that's obvious. That's what the pasuk is telling you from Benika Mak. And we miss, as the pasuk is telling you, if he doesn't die, shift the yitman. So you got to give him the loss of work and you got to pay for his doctor bill. That's what the pasuk is telling you. It says, what's the case talking about? If he wasn't warned beforehand and this guy whacked him over the head and the guy fell on the cement and the guy's in a coma, why is he going to be executed for having injured him if he didn't get a warning? You have to get a warning. And obviously the pasuk talking about where he was warned. So wait a second. So we're assuming, as we did on the first interpretation, so when you're warned for something severe like death, you're automatically warned for something lesser like malchus, which the lav of lo yosef, which if you injure and he doesn't die, well, that's included in the warning. And yet still, Torah tells you where if he doesn't die, where now you have two things. You have the fact that the punishment of malchus, because he was warned for misa, which includes malchus, which is lo yosef, the issue of hitting someone else, and there's also monetary liability. The Torah tells you that you can be liable for the monies. Like it says, shift the yitim that you pay for the doctor bills and you also pay his loss of work. Oh, so you see, from this halacha, when there's both mum and malchus, what are we going to hold him liable to? Is mum and not malchus.
Why couldn't you use the same issue that they had on the advice? So
right, that's Rabbi Loy. Rabbi Loy, right. Rabbi Loy was learning out from...
We could say the Rebbe also learns that. The Rebbe's...
Right, no, I'm saying we were asking according to the new pshatim that the Gemara was giving, that for some reason they don't like Rabbi Loy's pshat, so they were coming up with other pshatim. So your pshat works according to the Rabban. What's Rebbe going to do? So he finds a new pshat. They didn't like Rabbi Loy's pshat of davanit mi'al liyad. Is it because it's not extra words or because it doesn't really indicate that? So it's saying that this is going to be another pshat for Rabbi how you know this. But the Gemara asks the same questions as on the first pshat. Masculine Rav Ashi. Rashi asks, how do you know that being warned for a more severe thing is including being warned for a lesser thing? Maybe it's not true. Maybe it's only for what you warned them for. And if you're going to say it is, how do you know that death is a more severe penalty? Maybe it's lashed to the most severe because like Rav says, had they hit, they would have bowed down to the idol. I don't know if some breed of Vascular of Ashi, some breed of Ashi says, what do you mean? Don't you think there's a difference between unlimited hitting to a limited hitting? Unlimited hitting, yes, maybe that's more severe than death. But limited hitting, like 39 lashes, is not, and therefore it's the kal, and therefore it's included in the Davachama. But Mascular Mari still has a difficulty. He says, Mimai, where do you get from this pasuk when it says V'hika ishes her eyu, that someone's going to hit his friend? Dib b'meizid, that is talking about where he hit him deliberately. And you're telling me V'nika means he's clean. That you're letting him from there. What do you mean he's clean? We can let him go. What do you mean letting him go? We're letting him go from jail because V'nika means miktala. You're clearing his record from being executed. Where from there you're learning out that, obviously if you tell me he would die, then you would kill the guy who hurt him. Obviously, it's about where you warned him, and then it's about warning him, and if he doesn't die, you see, you don't give him lashes, you pay the money. That was your source. How do you know? Maybe dil b'shagig. Maybe the person actually where he killed him by mistake, and there was no warning, and the prison wasn't to execute the one that killed him. Rather, v'nika, when you let him go, is not let him go from being executed. Rather, it's migalis. It's from the exile of the cities of refuge, which the prison that we're learning out from that was for gullus. To maybe we have to send him to gullus. And that's why when he's clean from going to gullus, he pays money because there was no warning. But if there was a warning, maybe I would tell you that yes, even when he doesn't die, he would not pay because he would get malchus. So the Gemara Kasha, that's a difficulty too. Rava, how is this a source, even according to Rebbe? How do you know that it's talking about B'mezid and V'nika is from Ketala? Every time we killed them, B'shagig, and V'nika is from Galus, and then you don't have a right to talk about by Hasra. Galus is even when you did it, obviously without Hasra, where it was by mistake. And maybe that's why you can pay the money. But you don't have a source, according to Rebbe then, according to how they're trying to say, of why Chavil L'Chavera is unique, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that generally you get Malchus, not Tashlum, and here it's going to be Tashlum and not Malchus. So this was all in the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, our whole discussion up until this point, which is a continuation from the previous stuff, which we had two interpretations how to resolve the stiras, the mishnayos, our Mishnah and Elanayos, and the Mishnah of Masechtas Makos, when the person is ma'anis a naira besula, what is the liability? Is it going to be money or malchus? Rabbi Yochanan said it's going to be malchus, not mammon. Ula said it's going to be mammon, not malchus. Now Rish Lakish says a third interpretation how to resolve the stira. So Rish Lakish coming to explain the original question regarding the contradiction. Our Mishnah says it's going to be paying. Mishnah says Malchus says it's going to be lashes. He says, you know how many know the time of the Mishnah is that says if you're balach you're going to give knas? It's Remeirhi. The Amar that he says, and we quote him on the previous Daf and Daf Lamed Beis, loike umeshalem. You actually get both. You get lashes and you pay. Because like he recorded, he said, Shaloi Hashem Mavil De Malchus, Mavil De Tashlumin. They're from two different Isurim. One's Leisana, one's from Eid, it's from Kasha Zamam. And therefore, yes, just like by Eid Muzaymin did you see Yichayv both, so too, when someone's Ma'anis Achaisai, where one's the halacha of Knas, one's the halacha of Ervas Achais Chalei Segale, and if you're going to get both, you're going to like him, Mashal. Says the Gemara, then even when he violates his daughter, which for that he gets Misas Bezdin, you should still pay, because Remeir doesn't hold that you're exempt because of Kilim B'Jabin, because they're from two different Sukkim. So why does the next Mishnah quote Habal Bita, if someone's born as Bita, then these parts of him Knas? What do you mean? That they're from two different Shemus, you should get both penalties if you're saying our Mishnah is like Remeir. And Mechitim, we can say Remeir, no. Like Mishal Misli only holds that you get lashes and you pay. But Meis Misham Lesson, where you're actually going to get executed in court, then you don't pay the payment to Beloy. It's not the case. But Vatanya in the Bryce as follows: Gana b'tavach b'Shabbos. Someone stole and slaughtered the animal on Shabbos. So there's obviously chiv misa for shechting, which is it's a issa deiraisa to shecht on Shabbos. Or let's say let's say he stole and he slaughtered that animal for idolatry, which is also a chiv misas bezin. Or well, let's say he stole an ox that had to be stoned because of that it killed someone. He stole that ox and he slaughtered it. Which later on the Gemara is going to ask, what do you mean? But the ox wasn't worth anything because it was a shar hanizkel. But be that as it may, Mishalam Tashlum b'chamish Meir. Meir says regarding all these cases, even though you're getting the death penalty for slaughtering on Shabbos, for slaughtering from the Zara, you're still going to have to pay the halacha that's known as Dalad V'hei, which is when you steal an ox and you slaughter it, you have to pay 4 or 5 times the amount if it's an ox or a sheep. Chacham say you're going to be exempt. But one thing we see, you wanted to answer to say that, our mission is going like Reb Meir, that you're like a Mishalim, and what do you do with Bita? It doesn't hold Beis Mishalim. You see explicitly that it holds Beis Mishalim. So how are you going to answer that it's like Reb Meir? Says Allah, but we explained on that Amar Yaakov Amar B'Yechid, Amar L'San Amar B'Yirmer B'Shim Malakish, Reb Amar B'Loi B'Chol Chabrusa and B'Chaburas and the whole group Mishmei Yechon Amar Nim B'Yechid, they said, that Toma B'Tevecha De Acher. That's not what we slaughtered through someone else. The Ganav, the thief, told his agent to slaughter the animal. So it's not Mesa Mishalim, because the one who's going to die is the one who slaughtered. The Ganav is going to have to pay the Dal V'hei because he's not getting the death penalty. So that's why. So it's not a raya. It could be Rabbi holds Ein Mesa Mishalim. So how could he pay over there? Because he's not getting the Misa because he had someone else do the slaughtering. Says Gemara, wait a second. The agent is sinning, and the one who sent him is going to be mischayiv, is going to be liable for the penalty of 4 or 5 times the amount. How can you tell me he's going to pay because he's not getting death? But why is he paying? He didn't do that avera. His agent did the slaughtering. The Gemara Kedushin of Ben Beis and Beis tells us there's no agent for a sin. It's an avera to slaughter someone else's animal. So why is he even mechayiv for teshlumin? So the Gemara has 3 answers. Amar Rabba says, Amar Achman Torah says in Shemais, Pasuk says if someone's going to steal an ox or a sheep, it says and if he slaughters it or he sells it, then he has to pay 4 or 5 times the amount. Now, what's it comparing selling to slaughtering? To say mamachir, just like selling al the achers through someone else, because you can't sell without another person. You need someone to buy from you. It has to be complicit with someone else. So to slaughtering is al the achers, even through someone else. So the Torah is being mechadish to you that you can be chayiv through an agent. A second source, the Rabbi Shmuel Tana, Oy, the word Oy, what's the B'tvacha Oy Mechare? That's the extra word Oy, is the Rabbi Shlich, is coming to include an agent. Or the Bechizki Tana, third interpretation, the word Tachas. It says Tachas Hashar. It could have said Yishalem Bishar. What's Yishalem? Tachas Hashar. The word Tachas is extra, the Rabbi Shlich to include if you have an agent. So you're right, the Torah explicitly is telling you that you can be chayiv for slaughtering someone else's stolen animal 4 or 5 times the amount. And he's getting Misa, but he's not getting Misa because the Shliach is doing it. So that's why you could still be like a mayor. You're right, you're like a Mishalim, but you are Mace, but you are like a Mishalim, but you're not Mace and Mishalim. Why over there are you paying? Because you're not getting the Misa. And that's why over here by Bita, you're not going to get the Knas because you are Mace, and you're not Mace and Mishalim. But Maskimla Marzudja asked, Mikimidi, is there such a thing? The Ilo of it, Ihu. Had the guy himself, the thief himself, had he slaughtered the animal, loy mechayiv, he wouldn't be chayiv for the penalty of 4 or 5, because he's going to be executed for Chil Shabbos. Now that his agent is doing it for him, now it's going to be more severe for him that he's going to be chayiv 4 or 5. How's that possible? Himself, he wouldn't be chayiv 4 or 5 because he's getting death. An agent is going to make it more severe. How could someone else doing it be more severe than yourself? So you might be thinking of the answer already. Says Gemara, no, himself is not because he's not liable. That and how could he be more liable when someone else is doing it for him? Like usually, what you do yourself is more severe. It's not true. Of course, he's liable. It's only because we're going to give you the more severe of the two, which is death. But of course, you're liable for that, and therefore, when you're not actually liable for death, because the shliach is doing it for you and he's liable for death, then yes, you're going to be chayiv through your shlichus. Like we brought 3 different sources to include a shliach for the halacha of Dal V'hei. Thank you to anytime for hosting us.